important part of the component of what we want to discuss in this course. For some years, we didn't have a separate session, and we used the Sasha case study for other purposes. Having said that, fair trade is extremely important because it brings forth certain other elements into the discussion, and things like marketing, things like promoting artisans' livelihoods, things like crafts, things like food, and automatically issues of sustainability, examining the value chain all the way from producer to end consumer, done in an ethical way without spoiling the environment and the ecology and the ecosystem. So there are various elements to this discussion. So we have a very, very capable person here, Executive Director of SSA, who does extensive work in India and across the world in this respect. And Sasha is a very admired organization. Sarva Shanti Ayog was when it started off, and started off with the refugee crisis, basically, with a very, very dynamic, charismatic lady, Suhasini, and Shabi, as she was commonly called during the Indo-Bangladesh War. But what's important is that it didn't stop there. It grew from strength to strength. And this is one organization which doesn't represent just Calcutta, just West Bengal, just Eastern India. It's an India organization with ties, with links, with working relationships across the world. We're very, very proud to have Sujata Goswami to speak about crafts, fair trade, and Sasha. Thank you, Sujata. In the process, do there are other aspects beyond craft.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So, as you see, the presentation itself is named Celebrating Crafts and Fair Trade. So, before I get into how Sasha and its work with fair trade or work in fair trade, I'll just give you a background of the global fair trade movement. The fair trade movement, people say, that's how it has been recorded, started in the US after the Second World War, when a lot of countries were getting reconstructed. There was a lot of crisis, political, economic crisis in the global south as well as in Europe. That is when this movement started, when people started buying products from the global south, from the poor countries, so that aid in the form of that money could reach them. Because there was a group of people who believed that if doling out aid was not going to serve in the long run. So Oxfam started with the slogan, trade not aid. So when you trade with people, you put people on an equal platform. Don't look at them as people who are in need, but people who have capabilities, but they need resources, they need opportunity, and they need the market. So that's how the whole fair trade movement started. It was a very small movement, started by a few people. It was basically promoted by the church and the shops where products from all over the global south, whether it's like South America or Asia, Africa, they started calling them as a world shop. Now the world shops had products from everywhere, and in the initial years, it was only the products that meant, not the quality, not much focus was into marketing those products. It was kind of a do good gesture, doing good. But because there was such a diversity of hand skills in these regions, whether it's Africa or Asia or South America, the products inherently had some qualities. But deliveries continued. Professionalism was not, were into consideration. But as the fair trade movement matured, as the fair trade movement grew.
Sujata, may I suggest you take the mic, because I don't know in the video whether they'll hear you.
Okay. Okay. So, as a movement grew, a lot of organizations came forth, and the core mission of the organization was to support these so-called marginalized producers in the global south, and set up quite professional businesses with this kind of a mission and vision in their countries, especially in Europe and America. So and North America and Europe. So the whole fair trade buyers were concentrated in the global north, and the producer, the whole supply chain was based in the global south. So I think till the last decade, it continued to be like this. And in the last 10 years, of course, because of so many changes globally, if you see there's a recession in Europe, there's a recession in the US, I think the balance has somehow tilted. So you have a growing South Asian market where there are buyers in South Asian countries like Hong Kong and Korea and Singapore, Taiwan, Japan. So these are the larger, bigger businesses for fair trade. So when the fair trade movement started, it needed recognition, it needed visibility, and therefore a lot of symbols came up. So the Global World Fair Trade Organization, which our organization kind of is member and supports, came up almost 30 years ago. But in 30 years it has grown in terms of, it has presence in 70 countries in the world and almost 250 members in different countries. And it has a biennial conference. Every 2 years they have a biennial conference, and this year the biennial conference is in New Delhi. So it's a big congregation of fair traders from all over the world in Delhi in November. And then thereafter regional chapters came up. So you had a regional organization in Asia, you had one in Europe, you had one in the Pacific Rim, you had Africa. So you had 5 regional organizations. So this is how slowly the global fair trade movement started growing. Then you started feeling the need for a certification. And this discussion also almost took 10 years to take shape, and finally a fair trade certification, a fair trade which is known as the guarantee system came up. And it does not certify any product, it guarantees the whole organization. That as an organization you believe you're committed to fair trade and you're following fair trade, and there is a whole system. There are standards and systems. It's like any other certification you have. And I think the most of the important characters for this certification has been taken from SA 10,000. So, and there is a third-party audit, so it is a robust. But then you also had a parallel fair trade movement, which was more on food. The fair trade started with crafts and things like textiles, clothing, crafts, but gradually food overtook, because food consumption was much more higher than other crafts and textile products, and it was easier to certify food. Can anyone tell why it's easier to certify any food than crafts? And you will know, of course. Someone else?
Try.
Why it's easier to certify, and don't think about fair trade here, any kind of certification. Think about organic. Do you find any organic crafts, but you find a lot of organic food? It's because the supply chain is very small. It's easier to certify. So if you want to have, say, fair trade bananas, you just need to certify the plantation. But for a handicraft material, for example, basket, the supply chain is long and indefinite. It is home-based work and a lot of complications. So while certification and the fair trade food really boomed, and I think in Europe, especially in UK, it is almost more than 35% of the consumption now, and it's growing. It's growing every year at a rate of 18 to 20%. That's what the last figure is saying. Fair trade food is available in all departmental stores, and once you reach the departmental store, then I think your time in the sun has come, because you really are in the hands of many more. Otherwise, with crafts, it's still a niche market. People with certain kind of consciousness will appreciate handmade products and fair trade handmade products. So the market is still limited, but I think with other ethical buyers and a lot of large organizations looking at ethical supply chains, this market is bound to grow. And especially there is a great now revival in handmade in India. I don't know whether there will be a temporary setback due to the economic slowdown, but there is a rising consciousness, especially amongst the younger generation. A generation which always looking towards, the fast food and the fast life is now really talking about the slow food and the slow process of the handmade, and there is a shift in the thought process. So this is about the fair trade movement. Has anybody any question about it? You can ask and I can go on.
Please feel free to ask.
Exactly. Ask me
Different
anything. Ask anything. It's a new concept, I understand. A lot of international students are at least aware of the fair trade movement because they see fair trade products everywhere. Especially students, our experience has been like students coming from Sweden and UK and France. They have a fair idea about fair trade because they see it all the time around them. There's much more awareness, but in India there is very little awareness about fair trade. Fair trade as a global movement. So you can
Please feel free to ask. Some of
anything
you joined late, so even if you want to recap, please.
Even Anmesha, you can ask anything you want, though you have a fair bit of idea about fair trade.
So I'm just getting the discussion going on. What was the difference between fair trade in India and organizing rather disorganized sector that were already in place? So what else does fair trade add to that, other than fair price, of course?
I think fair price is very overrated and actually comes up in every discussion, but I think fair trade is a much larger scope in terms of working with this sector, whether it's food sector or with the craft sector. And people are now, there are a lot of young people who have started thinking as services as fair trade. For example, I had a very good experience in Kathmandu this year, where there are 2 restaurants which have applied for fair trade membership. There is a fair trade group Nepal which looks after fair trade membership in Nepal. They're based in Kathmandu and they got a couple of applications from restaurants. Now people will think, what's the relationship between having a restaurant which is fair trade? But there are fair trade towns. Like Oxford is a fair trade town. There are fair trade districts in UK, and recently Sweden has been declared a fair trade country. So there are criteria. There is a whole network called the Fair Trade Towns Network. So there are criteria. In India, Pondicherry has declared itself fair trade recently. So there are criteria which you can claim to be fair trade. So it's not only the fair price; it's how you do business. It's how you are your working relationships, not only with the artisans but also with your customers. How you sell, where you sell. So the whole aspect of market and production and capacity building, it all encompasses fair trade. So it's not only wage.
So it doesn't marketing get to be a burden because on one hand there's calling a self-sustaining system. On the other hand, we have to market sometimes by more traditional channels. So doesn't marketing become
So
that
you
loss?
choose to be in a certain bracket. Either you are completely a producing organization or you are a marketing organization. Like Sasha is inherently an intermediary marketing organization. We don't produce anything. So our entire focus is on market development, developing markets, looking for more markets, accessing markets. So the whole energy and the expertise of the organization is in that. And Sasha works with a network of producing organizations whose expertise and capability lie in producing rather than marketing. So it's a network based on complementary abilities. So that is how when I talk about Sasha. So neither of it should be looked at as burden. So you are expert or you are skilled in producing, you will produce. So it is there are fair trade organizations which are doing both. So you have different kinds of organizations. So they're doing producing and probably then they focus on certain products. For example, artisan wear, there's mostly leather. So they'll focus on products. But with Sasha, we work with 16 craft lines and over 400 kinds of product ranges. So the portfolio is huge.
Way diverse. Yes.
So I get on to Sasha now?
No questions on fair trade? No, I think that is
Okay.
Broadly speaking, what are the criteria you look at to give a certification for trade?
Certification, I think, comes at the very fag end. So there are 10 standards, 10 principles rather, of fair trade, which I will share when I go through the presentation. And when we want to work initially, we don't look at any producer organization or any entity actually compliant to all 10 of them. We see basically productive or active organizations. But there are organizations which are advocacy, but then they are put into a separate category. There can be advocacy organizations. You need organizations who do advocacy, who do research, but they are into another category. But basically, fair trade organizations are either producing organizations or marketing organizations. They have to be actively involved in any of the trade practices. So you have to be in existence as a legal organization for 4 to 5 years, and then you apply. And that is a process. It takes even 2 years because you go through certain awareness and sensitization with documentation, so it requires a couple of years. And then the certification itself is a process.
Will you talk later about the different fair trade international organizations?
Yes.
You spoke about WFTO, but others also you talk about?
Yes. So there's one is WFTO, which is globally recognized, and the other is the FLO, which is the Fair Trade Labeling Organization, which certifies mostly the food and to a large extent cotton. FLO has standards which the basic tenets are same as the fair trade standards, but they have standards which are more, which will cater more to certification of consumer goods. So, for example, if they have standards which cater to certifying plantations, a tea plantation, or a coffee plantation, or a cocoa plantation, or cotton farmers, or the cotton chain. So those are the set of strict criteria they have, and which is very similar to ISO, which is very similar to SA8000. So flow certification is for the product. So the difference between the flow certification and WFTO certification is that flow is a product certification, while the WFTO certification is an organization certification, where it certifies the process, the organization itself. And you need to select what products you want to certify. Like Sasha may be working with so many products, but we have our list of products and list of producers who produce them. And we have an internal monitoring system, and we can label only those products, not any products, because all the processes and all the, even the producer groups who make them, who produce them, they also need to comply to the 10 standards down the line. So it is not something top bottom, it's actually bottoms up. Only if your producers comply or show compliance to the 10 principles, then the organization can be certified as a fair trade organization. So these are the two. And then there are several other fair trade, not certifications, but associations in every country in Europe. Belgium will have its own, France will have its own. So they have their own individual associations in each country where, for example, Fair Trade USA Fair Trade USA governs all fair trade members in USA, and they have a set of criteria. But in spirit, all these criteria, fair trade criteria, if you go and search through in the internet, you Fair Trade USA or FLOW or WFTO. So there is also a discussion on harmonizing all of them, so that you don't confuse consumers. You have a kind of a harmonized standards that FLOW also means certain same things that what the WFTO wants to say or the Fair Trade USA wants to say. So there is a discussion on harmonizing them, but of course, because there are so many diverse views, it may take time to come to a common platform. For example, one of the basic differences between WFTO and FLOW was that FLOW, being a consumer or a product-oriented certification, wanted to have. They didn't have any issues with certifying large corporations. For example, Nestle. So Nestle was selling actually fair trade chocolate, and then there was a lot of objection. So getting a certification is not very difficult for a large corporation like Nestle. So there was a question which came up that whose interests are we serving? Are we serving the interest of the small cocoa farmer in Ethiopia or Ghana? Or are we serving the purpose of a large corporation which has tons of money like Nestle? So there was a lot of debate on this, and that's why there are a lot of differences of opinion between WFTO and FLOW, and that's why this common agenda is taking time. But they have come to a point where they have a common fair trade. They've decided on a common fair trade standard, where both organizations which they will follow. But there are difference of opinions on these issues and several other issues which even I have not delved in detail. So they're all political and differs from country to country.
How will it be for the startups to get this certification?
So if you are in India, there is a national network. It's called the Fair Trade Forum India. So you can become a member of the national network that gives you far more visibility in terms of being a fair trade organization. But you have to be very clear about why do you want to. Is it because of you want customers, or you want visibility, or you want to be part of the movement? So you need to be very clear on that, because our experience has been a lot of organizations join thinking that they'll have a lot of customers, their buyers' portfolio will increase, but none of the networks are going to get you buyers. They're going to get you visibility. Buyers are not looking at whether you are a member or not, because we work with a lot of buyers for whom it doesn't matter whether we are a global WFTO member or not, but they do look at the certification. Because we are a certified member, they do look at certification. It ensures them that what we are saying is what we are practicing. So there is a national network, and then there is a regional network. That's how you work.
Will it be startup you should be running for at least 5 years to get apply for this.
Yeah, 4 years, you complete 4 years, and in the 5th year you can apply.
But that's a long time like, for a startup who are looking for who are looking to survive. They want like survive for 4 years. So if this one is going to help, like so it should be like somewhat early, right?
So that's why I mentioned that you need to be very clear on why do you want to join.
So you said this is
As an organization, Sasha became a formal member pretty much late, but it was already part of the global movement. It was attending conferences, Sasha was attending conferences. A maximum of Sasha's buyers, almost 100% of Sasha's buyers 10 years ago were the global fair trade members. But Sasha itself was not a fair trade member, it became only a member in 1998. It started in 78 and it became a member in 1998. So it has to be very clear within you that why do you want to become a member? And is it a priority for a startup? And what kind of, what purpose would it serve? What kind of expectations you have? A lot of members, join with that expectation that if I join the network, then there will be buyers. Buyers don't look at the network list of network members when they're looking for products. They look for products, they look for credible organizations, they look for organizations which will serve their purpose, which are professional. So they're looking at that, they don't look at it. It's just an add-on, it's something you're part of. And in India, the Fair Trade Forum India, what it is trying very hard is to make its presence felt at the policy level. It now has 150 members in India and one of the largest networks in the world. None of the country networks have so many members. So it is trying now very hard to have a kind of a recognition or visibility in terms of our national landscape. Because till now it has not been able to. In EU, fair trade organizations have managed to influence policy. So EU has a special fair trade policy now. But it has been, for last 7 years they have been pursuing. They have a fair trade advocacy office in Brussels. So that advocacy office work is continuously trying to do events or get the EU, the politicians on board. In India, we have not been able to do that, and I think fair trade forums like that have to do that in order to get recognition and get a visibility and make the government see what we are doing. For example, for this GST thing, everyone is perturbed, everyone is suffering, but we don't have a collective voice. So probably the forums like Fair Trade Forum India could do it because you have 150 members, that means over 15 million people. 15 million people organized under a forum, that's not a small number. So you need to be very clear, why do you want to be a member of the network? Most organizations go with the expectation that you will get more market. Of course, networks do some activities on market access, but that's very limited. Yes.
When you were talking about membership and certification to the organizations for the products, so what about the artisans who are working with them? Is there any kind of certification for them also, or any kind of guidelines they need to maintain so that the certification continues?
So, fair trade organizations who are members and who are certified, it's not that they get a certification just by showing their performance. It's the producer groups have to be compliant with all the 10 standards.
So do they get any kind of individual certification other than the
No,
organization?
they will not get an individual certification, but if they want to scale up and go the independent way, they can. As I said that how we see it, that the artisans are very they are skilled in production. And there will be organizations who will be skilled in marketing. So we're making use of each other's capabilities to work, in the trade. So there are producers, it happens with Sasha. There were organizations which Sasha set up or organized, and now they've become, as I said, Fair Trade Forum India members. They've grown up, they scaled their activities they have. Artisan entrepreneurs also become independent, and then they start their own business and then become members. So it is how much pain are you prepared to take, and how much perseverance you have. Anything more on fair trade? Till I think the next decade, it was the same organization which was working with the artisans, working with the producers, designing products, helping them with finances, whatever an organization, a small business enterprise needs, and then also helping them market their products. And it also opened the first shop in Calcutta in 1981. Sasha opened its shop in 1981 when Calcutta didn't have any craft shop. So Delhi had Fab India, Bombay had contemporary crafts, but Calcutta, despite being so passionate about arts and craft, didn't have a proper craft shop. So opening Sasha shop was one big event. Doordarshan covered it, and there was a lot of noise about it. In early 80s, people started discussions within Sasha that you need another organization which can focus on markets, because marketing and development work needed separate focus. So around 85, 86, the organization was restructured and Sasha Association for Craft Producers was formed, which is known as Sasha, because Sasha is the face of the organization, and Sarva Shanti Ayog kind of is the development organization which works with producers directly. And then you have producers, producer collectives, and you have Rural Agro Services Association, which is a trust which deals with non-craft products. So it's a network built on complementary competencies, as I spoke. Each organization has its own expertise, and together they work. We almost work with now 150 independent producer organizations. So it's a huge network. And Sasha is a guaranteed member of WFTO. That means it is a member which has the Fair Trade certification. So not all members have Fair Trade certification. Out of 250 members, only 125 members of WFTO have certification. So I already spoke. It was set up by professionals, design practitioners, and senior social workers. Professor Ranjan mentioned Subhashini Kohli. She was a social worker. She did a lot of work in Bangladesh with Oxfam, and then there was a huge amount of refugee influx after the Bangladesh civil war. She wanted to do something for the refugee women, especially. And the refugee women were mostly located on the border districts, and Calcutta, which now has become almost part of the city, just on the bypass. And in the meantime, there were organizations who wanted women to become self-reliant. For example, Mother Teresa was running a small income generation facility on the bypass, and they approached Subhashini Kohli that we have organized the women, why don't you work with them? And then MCC, a Mennonite Central Committee, which has its office near Sialda, they also wanted to they requested Sarva Shanti to take over a group of women they had trained, and these all women were refugees, and they didn't have families, they were orphans and destitutes, and these are the kind of women who were organized. So in the first 25 years itself, Sasha actively facilitated the formation of 30 organizations. So it actually in the initial years had to organize scattered artisans into groups. So some were in Odisha, most were in South Bengal, south of Bengal, in these 5-6 districts, South 24 Parganas, North 24 Parganas, Bardwan, Hooghly, Nadia districts. Some were in Odisha. Sasha has done extensive work in Odisha as well. And then some work in Varanasi and some work in Bhagalpur, Bihar. So those were the areas which Sasha focused on initially, in the initial year. And the key thing was that Sasha was not only working in isolation, it was trying to work with craft communities to address the entire supply chain. For example, if we were marketing clothes, then the entire supply chain was being addressed, right from the weavers to the dyers, printers, embroiders and stitchers. So it was working with kind of the entire value chain of craft communities. And in the initial years, Sarva Shanti Ayog devoted a lot of energy in reviving old crafts like Kantha, like the tribal jewelry, the Dokra tribal jewelry in Odisha, the Kantha embroidery. So Kantha is very different in different parts of West Bengal. So different districts of West Bengal have different language in terms of Kantha. A lot of work was done in Pattochitru, in the musical instruments, the folk musical instruments. A lot of work was done on scroll painting. A lot of work was done on cane and bamboo with Ramakrishna Mission. I think that was a pioneer work which was done in the early 80s with Ramakrishna Mission. And then it was promoting artisans, helping them become independent, self-reliant, providing them with leadership skills so that they're able to manage their own organizations. And when I say artisans, it means women also. So right now we work with 40 women-headed organizations, and we're really very proud of working with them. So the Sasha retail store started 3 decades ago, more than 3 decades ago, actually 35 years ago, and it became like a meeting ground of designers and artisans, and so it's not a retail store. We do events, we do exhibitions, we do book reading sessions, we do painting exhibitions, all kinds of events which ultimately kind of promote skills and crafts. And then we also organized exhibitions. So there was an exhibition in Jahangir Art Gallery in Bombay, major exhibitions in Delhi, Prince of Wales Museum in London, in Bolzano, Italy. So a lot of international and national, and these were all supported partly by other organizations, but majorly through its own, the surpluses generated through its own business. So these are the major focus area for Sarva Shanti Ayog and Sasha, because what I present is, I'm presenting the capabilities of the both organizations. So business development, scaling up small business enterprises, skill upgradation, facility upgradation, so that artisans have a better and regular income, market development, design and product development. Our design and product development process starts from scratch. So we have an in-house design team which is working regularly throughout the year to develop new designs. Accessing markets, managing the supply chain, as I said. So if we are making leather bags, so the leather bags will have a lining for cotton, so that cotton also comes from the weaver in the same network. Capacity building, by capacity building we meant the technical inputs for quality and complying with international requirement. Whether you are a small self-help group located in any small village in West Bengal, or you are an MSME located in Hooghly or Howrah, you have to comply to the same set of international regulation. That's the irony. So your product will have to comply to the same set of international regulations, even if you are a small self-help group or a MSME. in fact, or a industry. So you have to constantly prepare small producers on what are the kind of international regulations are there for their kind of product, and continuously, upgrade them, because the regulations keep on changing. Then access to finance, which is very important to run any kind of business, whether small, medium or micro. So we provide interest-free advances to very small groups. We provide microfinance for working capital to medium-sized groups on service charge. So there is a mechanism for it. Then we support them with information technology, whether they need internets or websites or any kind of such facilities. And then we help them in sourcing. For example, if you need certain kind of raw material which a small producer from interior location cannot access, we support that. And as I mentioned, small and micro enterprise financing, it is a model which we use for our network of producers. It offers long-term and short-term products. Short-term products are working capital against orders, and long-term products are small loans for infrastructure. If you want to build your work shed, if you want to repair your work shed, if you want to buy a machine. Then we also work extensively on social security, because providing income generation opportunity to artisans is one thing, but also you have to consistently work on creating a social security network for them, so that in terms of emergencies they have a fallback mechanism. So we work on financial education, group savings, we link up with insurance. We are a nodal agency for LIC's micro-insurance, so artisans can do micro-insurance through us. Then we run health clinics for women's organization. We do community education programs in certain clusters, and we work extensively on improving working conditions. And so for improving working conditions, we are also supporting them with finance. For example, constructing a bathroom, or buying a solar, or buying fans, or buying water filters. We provide them with finance. And then we do extensive networking advocacy for fair trade. We are the first member, like the promoting members of the Fair Trade Forum network in India, as well as Asia, and a leading member of the global fair trade body. So as I said that we basically work with craft. We have a trust which deals with body care and food. So this is a separate trust which is also a member of the fair trade and also complies with all the tenets of the fair trade. I think okay. So we believe that in business you can use the power of the marketplace to actually change lives. So business need not be seen in a negative connotation. You can actually use the power of the marketplace to change the lives of the artisans or the marginalized. And our